right or wrong is very subjective, as we human beings are being affected by surroundings in order to answer this question. Or in other words, one person may want to terminate half of the population of the world so that our earth will not be harmed by human anymore, which, yeah, quite right thing to do. But others will see that massive murder will never amount to a right thing. Well, yeah, luckily. However, in order to determine what law should be implemented for our community, we must see whether the law is right or not. And that is what we are going to discuss today, which is the Dworkin's right thesis. Basically, Ronald Dworkin is an American philosopher who had developed this kind of concept. And according to Dworkin, there should be always a right answer to a question of law. Dworkin at the first place had rejected naturalism and positivism theory, as for him, both of them does not lead to right law. As for naturalists, for him, not every time nature has the instinct to do the right thing or to amount to a right law. While for positivism, not every time the law that being implemented by the government is equal to a right law. So perhaps that's the reason he's doing his right thesis. According to Dworkin right thesis, right is more important than rules, while law is not a written rule. So much more complicated here, right? But the most important thing in the Dworkin right thesis is that law is not equal to morality but equals to a right thing, which much more related with what if the law that is right for the community, which in that context we can say that in Dworkin right thesis, law is much related with integrity in terms of what? In terms of justice, in terms of fairness, and also in terms of due process. In Dworkin right thesis, there are a few stages that we need to understand, which the first one is the pre-interpretation, where in this stage we need to consider about the rules, whether the rules is right or not to the community. And then the second one is the interpretation stage, where in this stage we have to take a look into the substance of the law. The substance of the law, alright, okay, and then we must see the rationale for the law. Now this is a very important part in Dworkin thesis, where we must see the rationale, whether the law is needed or not, and whether the law is right or not to the community. And then the third one, then we must look into the moral value of the law, whether the law is more moral or immoral, as it does not really directly relate with the morality, but it is something later, because right is equal to moral, right? Something like that. And then the third stage is the post-interpretation. After we had considered, after we had interpreted the law, we do have the post-interpretation, where in these stages we have to evaluate the law, whether we want to maintain, whether we want to whether we want to abolish the law, or whether we want to reform the law if the law is good. So these three stages is what or the main substance that form the Dworkin right thesis. Plus, in Dworkin right thesis, it explains that the judges need to find the right answer to whenever there is question about the law. Well, Dworkin further stated in his right thesis that a right answer is one which produces a better fit with the existing law and legal practice. Even though it may not be possible to demonstrate what answer is, but yet it have a correct answer. But the question here is, what is the right answer? Hello, Mr. Dworkin? Firstly, there is no single test to say or to answer the question about what is right. For example, if the person is doing something that is wrong in the eye of the people, but it is right for his mind and also his heart, so what is the standard test that should be implemented in order to determine whether the person doing is right or wrong? Is it the culture? Or is it the state of mind of people? Or is it the state of the mind as the normal being, as the normal human being? So, in other contexts, if you're talking about the law, whether the law is a right law to be implemented or not, is it how to determine whether it is right? There is no single test that being implemented or being mentioned in this right thesis. Other than that, in the perspective of law, the example that I can give is about the anti-fake news law. Is it the right law to be implemented in our country? Yeah, if you can see roughly on this kind of act or this kind of law, we can say that it is the right law to be implemented in our country, because it stopping or preventing people from spreading fake news in our country. As we can see, there are so many fake news nowadays in social media and also the newspaper also. However, there are so many criticism back in times about this kind of law, as it really produced some of confusion in the community. However, the law had been abolished by the new government as to the reason that the law is not needed, as there are so many other laws that are available, such as the Defamation Act. The suspicious thing about this anti-fake news law is that why the government need to implement such law when the election day is around the corner. Is it used only for the government where they just want to limit the freedom of speech of the people, or is it true that it is the right law to be implemented so that there is no fake news that being spread in our country? So when there is a question whether the law is right or wrong, there is no standard test to determine the answer, and therefore, here we go, the majority vote in the parliament has voted that such anti-fake news acts should be abolished. But yet, still there is a vote in the parliament that agrees such law should be implemented. So the splitting of vote here show the concrete proof that what is right or wrong is subjective in the perspective of human being. As mentioned earlier, the judges in this kind of thesis, they believe that the judges need to find the right answer when there is a question about the law. So this had led to second criticism, which is the judges have the quite weak discretion, as the discretion are not sustained in every decision that being made by the judges. As we know that not every law that being provided that need the judge's discretion. Imagine that every law or every case, the judges need to exercise his discretion in order to decide on the decided case. Of course, the hand of the judges are really tight here because they need to exercise their discretion as to decide what is right or wrong. We need to remember that the judges is also a human, so they are not sustained in providing what is right or wrong in deciding a case. So this is proof that it is quite impossible for the judges to actually maintain the right thing if they need to exercise their discretion every time they decide the matter in the court. So this led to the third criticism, which according to H. Elliot Hart, he mentioned in his writing that Dworkin is a novel dreamer. So novel dreamer here means that he trying to achieve what is quite impossible, that being mentioned in the world of law, in the field of law, the right thing cannot be done without a standard test to determine what is right or what is wrong. As according to positivists, what is right is what is government said, and for naturalists, what is right, what is the God said. But for this kind of theory, it is not related with any test, and that should be making this kind of theory is not a theory. So that it had led to the final criticism that related with the Dworkin thesis, which is this theory is not really a theory but just a mere strategy to find the best answer in order to answer the question of what is right about the law, as the stages involve the pre-interpretation, interpretation and post-interpretation is quite a good strategy in order to determine what is right. In conclusion, this kind of theory still can be said as a good theory, but all of the criticism need to be considered also. However, the question of what is right or what is wrong is still maintained within the state of mind of the individual itself, as the research has shown that the different people will have different desire and therefore it will affect their decision. And with that, I get thank you, and till we meet next time.